And we're back for another exciting installment of 4th Grade Rats by Jerry Spinelli. We're on Chapter 5, You're Not Funny. Later, my mother cornered me in my room. "Okay," she said. "Is that how dinner is going to be every day? A madhouse?" "It's not my fault," I told her. "All I did was get promoted to 4th grade." My mother sat on the bed. "Sudsy, maybe you're taking this too seriously. It's just a school kid's rhyme, you know. I'm sure it'll pass over in a day or two." "Sure," I sneered. "Tell that to all the kids at school calling me a rat. Tell it to Zippernose. Tell it to Joey." "What does Joey say about all this?" "He loves it. He's glad he's a rat. He says it's nature's way. He says it's a step up to being a man." She chuckled. "The way to a man is through a rat, huh?" "I keep telling you it's not funny." "You're right," she said. She spanked her own hand. "There, bad mom. That'll teach me." I glared at her. "You can forget it if you're trying to make me laugh. It's not working." She pretended to pout. "Darn. Okay, no more funny stuff. You're miserable and that's that, right?" "Right." "Bath didn't help?" "Yeah, it did, till I had to get out." She snapped her fingers. "Aha! All right. I'll tell you what we're going to do. I'm going to call the school and pull you out of there. We'll hire a tutor to come in and teach you. She can sit on the toilet seat while you're in the tub. We'll serve you your meals there, and after a couple of months, you should be shriveled down to the size of, a frog." I pointed to the door. "Mom, out." Or maybe we could put wheels on the bathtub and roll you off to school each day. We could. "Mom!" She shut up. She stood. She was biting her lip to keep from cracking up at her own hilarious self. She took a deep breath, put her hand on my shoulder. "Tell you what, there's more than one way to become a man." "What's that?" I said. "Go sweep the sidewalk. You'll be a man in no time." She looked at me. I looked at her. Joey's voice hissed in my ear. "Say no to your mom." Joey's voice was no match for my mother's look. I got the broom and went outside. I swept the sidewalk. My father had just cut the grass. He was putting the mower back in the garage. His weights were in the corner. They were covered with dust. "Dad," I said, "do you still lift your weights?" "Haven't for a couple years now," he said. "I'm saving them for you and Bubba." "Did they help you become a man?" He looked at them. "Oh, I don't know. I guess they helped me look like one." "Can I see your muscle?" He wheeled the mower into its place. He laughed. "You haven't asked me that in a long time. You used to ask me every day." He lifted his arm to I lifted his arm to get him started. "Well, come on, let me see." He put his hand behind his head and made the muscle. It looked like a baseball in there, or even a softball. "Make it bounce," I told him. He made it bounce. I reached up and touched it. It was smooth and round and hard like wood. "Pull me up," I said, "like you used to." He lowered his arm a little. I don't know if I still can. You're not such a shrimp anymore, you know." I grabbed on with both hands. "Hoist away!" His arm started to crank up. My legs got straight, and then I was on tiptoes. Then I was off the ground. I hung there for a couple of seconds, and then he let me down. We went back out. He closed the garage door. I asked him if he used to take a lunchbox to school when he was in 4th grade. He thought. He nodded. "Yeah, I did." "Did it have anything on the outside of it?" "Nope, it's just one of those old-fashioned ones like Grandpa took to work. I wanted one just like his." "No animals on it? Elephants, anything?" He shook his head. "Nope, afraid not. It was black. About as dull as a lunchbox gets." He opened the front door. "How about swings, Dad? Did you ever kick a little kid off a swing?" He stopped. He looked at me funny. "Where did that question come from? Somebody kick you off a swing?" No," I said, heading inside. "Just wondering." When I pulled down my bed cover that night, I found a mouse trap on my pillow. Dad thought we had a mouse once. It was set with a little piece of cheese. I tripped it with a pencil. It snapped like a cat pistol and flipped halfway up to the ceiling. I grabbed the trap, charged down the hall to Zipper-Nose's room, yanked the door open, and rifled the trap into the dark, right about where she would be laying in bed. The phone rang. I didn't bother with the squawks coming from Zipper-Nose's room. I picked up the phone. A voice whispered, "Did you say no to your mother?" Chapter 6. Joey becomes a man. Nothing much changed during the next couple days. First graders called fourth graders rats. Fourth graders bared their front teeth and snarled. First graders ran away squealing. I kept opening doors for Judy Billings. Judy Billings kept ignoring me. By the second week of school, the first graders were tired of the game, and without the first graders calling them rats, the fourth graders pretty much forgot that's what they were, except for Joey Peterson. Joey was just doing what he'd said, taking care of number one. I don't mean he went around kicking people in the kneecaps. I mean he did things pretty much his own way. He didn't care what anyone else thought. One day in class, we had pretend elections to learn how government works. Joey nominated himself for President of the United States. Then he voted for himself. He even looked different. He got his hair cut practically down to the nubs. "Like Marine boot camp," he said, and started wearing one of his father's old sweatbands around his head. He got a black marker and wrote number 1 on it. Joey was on his way to becoming a man. In fact, I think I saw him become a man before my very eyes, on a Thursday at the schoolyard. It was after lunch. We were just cruising around when a bee started flying near us. I hate bees, as much as I hate spiders, so I took off, flapping my hands. I heard Joey call, "Suds, look!" I turned. "What?" "Look!" He was holding out his arm. I couldn't see anything. "Look at what?" He was keeping very still, staring at his arm. "Come closer." I came closer and I saw. The bee was on his arm, crawling up and down. It gave me the shakes just to watch. "Swat him," I whispered. He just kept staring at the bee. By now, other kids were coming over, gawking. One of them was Gerald Willis, the school thug. When Willis saw what was happening, he snuck up behind Joey and knocked Joey's arm from underneath. Joey's arm jerked up and the bee took off. But not for long. The bee made a U-turn and came right back and zap, stung Joey right on his arm. Kids shrieked. I think a couple of little ones fainted. Everybody rushed forward. A bee sting. Next to a car door slamming on your hand, probably the most painful thing in the world. Major agony. I tunneled through the mob. Would Joey be in convulsions? Conscious? Alive? He was grinning. He was staring at the little white bee sting bump on his arm and was grinning. He was a rat. He was a man. Girls swarmed over him. "Oh, Joey, that must hurt so bad. How could you stand it?" "Oh, Joey, don't you want to cry?" "Oh, Joey, you're so brave." "Oh, Joey." One of the girls was Judy Billings. Judy Billings followed Joey around the rest of the day like a puppy dog. I walked home with him, but so did she, and it was like I wasn't even there. "Joey, can I see it?" For the millionth time. "Oh, it gives me shivers." "It's not even visible." "Weren't you scared? I heard people can die from bee stings." "Hey, look at me. I'm the one dying around here." "You think we ought to go to the emergency ward?" Barf. "Can I see it one more time?" Scream! Of course, she couldn't just look at it with her eyes. She had to look at it with her hands, too. I guess she had little eyeballs on her fingertips. First, she would touch the invisible sting spot and say, "Does that hurt?" And Joey would say, "No." And then she would press it and go, "Does that hurt?" And Joey would look all cool and say, "Nah." Of course, that wasn't enough for her. She had to start feeling around the rest of his arm to see if it was swelling up. She said it was. He said it wasn't. Of course, she had to switch to his other arm and go feeling around that one to see how it compared. And all of a sudden, it wasn't about the bee sting anymore. "Wow, your muscles are so hard." She didn't even see him clenching his arm. Girls are so dumb about that. "Do you lift weights?" she cooed. "I lift my father's barbells." I lift my father's barbells, I said, crossing my fingers. She gave him a look like, did you hear a voice? Is somebody else here? As for Joey himself, he was a little hard to figure. I had to admit, he wasn't exactly sucking up to her, but he was letting her do the talking. In fact, for a minute, it even looked like he was trying to help me. He gave me a little jab and said to her, hey, I happen to know another guy has pretty good muscles too. Not as good as yours, she cooed. Oh yeah, even better than mine. And you know what? I think he likes you. Her eyes widened. Really? Yeah, really. And I bet you like him too. Maybe I would. She was blushing. I was blushing. Things were looking up. I was feeling good. Joey shot me a quick grin. Want me to tell you who it is? My face was burning. Don't tell her. Don't tell her. Don't tell her. She gave him a shy smile. You don't have to. I don't? He said. No. How's that? Because I already know who it is. I was ready to faint. I tried to crawl into the nearest car. I wanted to crawl into the nearest car. Joey poked me again. Yeah? Who do you think it is? She giggled. She blushed even redder. She looked up and down the street. She cupped her hand and whispered into his ear. When she pulled away, she giggled again. He just gawked at her. She whispered some more in his ear. Then she ran off giggling down the street. We walked. Joey didn't say anything, so I did. Well? Well, what? Well, who did she say? He shrugged. Nah, it was nothing. I grabbed his shirt and jerked him to a stop. Peterson, who did she say? He sniffed. He shrugged. He looked away. Me. You? Yeah, she thought I was making it up about somebody else liking her because I was afraid to say it was me. I let his shirt go. Oh, great. Good friend you are. He shrieked. What could I do? I was trying to help you. Yeah, big help. I didn't hear you telling her she was wrong. I didn't hear you tell her you don't like her. I don't. You know that. You can have her all you want. Traitor. Sons! Traitor! I went to the other side of the street. After a while, he called, Sons, it's Friday. Stay over my house tonight. Never, I said. Chapter 7. Trashing Joey's Room. When I got to Joey's house that night, his room looked the same as always, but not for long. Been working on myself so far, he said. Now is my room's turn. First, we put up posters. Rambo, Hulk Hogan, and one showing that's this big nasty robot type dude, except you could see whiskers and a long tail sticking out. It was called Robo-Rat. I checked out the walls. Good. He checked out the walls. Good. Now to rest. He started with his bookshelf. He pulled over 4 or 5 volumes from his encyclopedia and threw them on the floor. Then he tossed out a couple of comic books and a National Geographic. He opened every drawer in his dresser. He flipped out stuff from each one. Socks, underwear, shirts, they landed all over. He kicked his wastebasket over. He dragged his dirty clothes hamper from the closet and dumped it on the floor. He charged into his desk. Pencils and papers and rubber bands went flying. About the only thing he didn't do was spit. By now you could hardly see the floor. He stood in the middle, turning, nodding, and smiling. Yeah, now it's my room. I just sat on the bed, stunned. Until then, Joey Peterson's room had been the neatest room I had ever seen. And he wasn't done. We ordered a pizza, and when we got down to the crust of each slice, he tossed it over his shoulder. One landed in his underwear drawer. The pizza box he flipped like a frisbee against the wall. After that, we had fudgesicles and peanut chews. The wrappers, at least his wrappers, went onto the floor. He took a wad of bubble gum from his mouth and winged it against his dresser mirror. It stuck. I guess he couldn't think of anything else to do to his room because he turned back to himself. He pulled something from his pocket. It looked like a little notepad. What is it? I asked him. He grinned. Tattoos. Oh no. I went to the bathroom. Into the bathroom we went. He tore off 4 and wetted them. Pretty soon he was tattooed on the chest, skull, and crossbones, both arms, a cobra and a mongoose. Ah, same author, remember? And on his rear end, if you can read this, you're too close. You know they're not going to last, I told him. They'll last till I take a bath, he said. And I ain't getting a bath except once a month from now on. I pinched my nose. Oh, great man, do you have to smell like a rat too? As we left the bathroom, he bumped into his mother. I saw your room, she said. What are you doing in there, training elephants? We laughed. Well, she looked at Joey. As soon as Suds leaves tomorrow, you see that it gets cleaned up. Uh-oh, I thought. This is it. Will he practice what he preaches? Joey slouched against his bathroom doorway. He looked off down the hall. Nah, I don't think so. Mrs. Peterson blinked. You don't think what? I don't think I'm going to clean it up. I like it that way. I took a step back. If Mrs. Peterson was about to get violent, I wanted to be out of range. Joey looked at the floor. I looked at Mrs. Peterson. Mrs. Peterson glared daggers at Joey. This lasted for about 3 hours. Then all of a sudden, it was over. Mrs. Peterson gave a little shrug and a smile and said, Okay, and walked away. I gawked at Joey. Just on this one day, he had faced a bee and a mad mother, and here he was, alive and healthy as ever. He gave me a thumbs-up sign. See? Nothing to it. Then Joey told me to wait in his room. When he came back, he had a hammer, a jar of nails, and a bag of cotton balls, and a bottle of iodine and some Band-Aids. I asked what all that was for. Put a hole in my ear, he says. I screeched, You gonna wear an earring? No. So why are you putting a hole in your ear? He grinned. Pain. If I didn't already know he was loony, I knew it now. I told him, The only thing about you that's turning rat is your brain. He ignored me. He cleared a space on his desk. He opened the jar of nails and dumped them out. He rooted through them until he found one he liked, a long, thin one. He handed the nail to me, along with a hammer. He got a felt-tip pen, went to his mirror, and put a dot in the middle of his right earlobe. He came back to the desk, knelt down beside it, real close, and flapped his lobe out so it sat like a tiny pancake on the top edge of the desk. I looked at the hammer and nail in my hands. Oh, no, I said. I dumped them on the desk and took a seat on the bed. You do it, if you're crazy enough. I would, he said, but I can't, not like this. Come on, just do it. I didn't move. You mind if I ask you a stupid question? Like why you want to hammer a hole in your ear? What do you mean? Wait. Ask you a stupid question. Like why you want to hammer a hole in your ear? What do you mean? Pain? He pulled his earlobe off the desk. He sat on the floor. You got to learn to take pain, that's all. No more crybaby, like Indians used to do. You had to go through stuff, really painful, before you could become a man. You had to prove you could take it. I got news for you, I told him. You're not an Indian. He looked at me, disgusted. He grabbed the hammer and held it out. You gonna do it? I shook my head no. I threw the hammer down. Thanks, pal. Listen, I said, if it means that much to you, why don't you just do some easier kind of pain, something you don't need a hammer and a nail for? Like what? I thought about it. Well, how about bending your finger back? Nah, he said, that's dorky. I thought some more. How about kicking your door with your bare big toe? He didn't like that one either. I got it. I knuckle your head 10 times. Forget it! But now I didn't want to forget it. I was getting into it. I rattled off some more. Pull out a hair. Sit the 3 thickest volumes of the encyclopedia on your tongue. Sleep all night with erasers up your nose. Wrap your mouth around the doorknob and slam it shut. I was still going when the phone rang. It was pretty late, so we were both surprised when his mother called and said it was for him. He went out. When he came back, he looked innocent. Too innocent. It was her, wasn't it? I said. I told her not to call people so late. I shoved him. Traitor. He shoved me back. Listen, Morton, I didn't call her. She called me. Took you long enough to hang up. What do you want me to do? Slam down the phone as soon as she said hello? Maybe I want you to lay off her. He laughed. I keep telling you, jerkface, I don't care about her. I ain't chasing her. She's chasing me. You want her? You want her to chase you? He threw the pad of tattoos in my face. Do something about it. We glared at each other. He turned on the TV. We watched a couple of horror movies in silence. Then we went to bed. When we woke up Saturday morning, I said, okay. He rubbed sleepies from his eyes. Okay, what? What do I do? He sat up. You ready to be a rat? I shrugged. I guess so. But I don't think I know how. It doesn't come natural to me. No sweat, he said. You just do what all beginners do. What's that? Practice. Okay. So, they have a plan. How do you think it's going to turn out?